Mjolnir-powered assault armor. The Mjolnir-powered assault armor system is a technologically advanced combat exoskeleton system designed to vastly improve the strength, speed, agility, reflexes, and durability of a Spartan super soldier. The suit is named for the hammer of Thor in Norse mythology. Created parallel to the Spartan II program by the Office of Naval Intelligence's Materials Group, the Mjolnir armor is the most advanced piece of tactical military hardware in human hands. Each suit alone costs as much as a small starship. The brainchild of Dr. Catherine Halsey, Mjolnir is an attempt to create a powered exoskeleton capable of taking full advantage of the physical capabilities of a Spartan. Mjolnir is considered by the librarian to be the fulfillment of a millennia-old geas she had implanted in humanity 100 millennia earlier, intended to help them reclaim the mantle. Spanning over 3 decades of development, Project Mjolnir encompassed more than just a suit of armor, but as a pioneering effort intended to shatter current technological barriers. In its final iteration, Mjolnir is a highly advanced suit capable of further enhancing the Spartan's physical performance, while also doubling as a platform capable of handling an artificial intelligence network. Unlike the powered exoskeletons that preceded it, the Mjolnir battlesuit was designed from the ground up as a suit of armor. Its design philosophy would serve as a basis for all future powered and semi-powered armor system designs. Each generation of the Mjolnir battlesuit is composed of major fundamental components. Construction of the suit is done in overlapping layers, and has been remarked of it being akin to a giant 3-dimensional puzzle. The armor's shell is composed of a multi-layer alloy of remarkable strength, and has been augmented with a refractive coating capable of dispersing a limited amount of Covenant energy weapon strikes. The suit contains a gel-filled layer underneath a thick, black, armored bodysuit. The gel layer regulates temperature and can reactively change its density. The inner skin suit is made of a moisture-absorbing synthetic material, linked to an environment control computer and the occupant's UNSC-issue neural interface. The battlesuit is a sealed system capable of extravehicular activity for a limited amount of time, or operations in toxic atmosphere. It is hardened against EMP and radiation, and has filters that are completely effective at removing toxins and bacteria from local atmosphere. Between the external armor and the internal batting is the most devastating weapon the suit carries. A layer of polymerized lithium niobosine, a liquid metal crystal that deforms along a preferred axis when exposed to an electric charge. Woven by molecular tools into a capillary system, this layer is amorphous, yet amplifies force, doubling lifting capacity and increasing reaction time by a factor of 5. Because the Mjolnir system is so reactive, it can only be worn by a physically augmented human. Ordinary people are unable to use the suit without injuring themselves. The Mjolnir battle suit's greatest advantage, however, is a super-dense optical computer memory. This revolutionary solid-based crystalline layer forms a network within the suit's frame of proper size and capability of housing the types of artificial intelligence usually reserved for starships. Essentially a piggyback system, an AI can be delivered to the suit via a data crystal chip storage device no larger than a personal credit card. The AI's personality and processing matrices can be carried by the armor and in conjunction with the user can neurally link with a being that has nearly unfettered control over mathematics, information, and body control. Such technology did not exist when work began on the Mark I prototypes. The functionality of the Mjolnir system is unprecedented. Rather than being a traditional suit of body armor, the Mjolnir battlesuit works on a biomechanical level, allowing for direct user-controlled movement. Each human being has a molecular fiber network called the nervous system within their brain. Upon induction, all military personnel are issued a neural interface, which is implanted at the base of the skull and cannot be removed. Spartan 2s receive a modified version of the neural lace, specifically for the Mjolnir armor. This neural lace, which consists of 2 core processor chips, which is linked to receptors in the subject's brain, which is connected to an interface connection at the rear of the skull, reads the electrochemical signals sent from the brain, and then translates these chemical signals into digital code. As the electrochemical impulse travels down the axon to the muscle, the digital code is routed through the internal connection to the suit's onboard sensors. The input from the sensors is then read by the onboard computer, and then, like the human body itself, sends an electrical impulse through the suit. As the impulse from the motor neuron hits the muscles, the electrical impulse from the suit causes the polymerized lithium niobosine to deform along a preferred axis, overlapping each other more so that the layers get shorter and fatter. When the impulses from the suit stop, the polygonal pieces slide back to their original positions. At the same time, as the muscle fibers are responding to the impulses, signals are sent to the suit that this is occurring. As the muscle twitches, the force being applied to the suit is accelerated through force-multiplying circuits, which amplify the force of the muscular twitch by a positive feedback loop in the armor. The end result is a fully neurally linked machine. The user's thoughts move the suit, and in return, the suit moves the user. The synthesis of machine and mind is so fast that it is almost impossible to chart reaction time. The suit also possesses other features that enhance its wearer's abilities. It has numerous clips, belts, and magnetic holsters for the attachment of additional weapons and ammunition. An advanced heads-up display linked to sensors in the gloves which can detect the type of weapons and devices held, and to project shield strength, ammunition count, a targeting reticle, waypoints, a radio uplink for communication, health monitoring and restoration system, regenerative food materials, and other helpful data. In its final phase, the Mjolnir battlesuit weighs half a short ton, or 1,000 pounds, and is a fully neurally linked system. With an onboard AI using the human mind for parallel processing, the Spartan Mjolnir combination is designed to be the most devastating intelligence tool ever created. Before Dr. Halsey initiated Project Mjolnir, the UNSC Navy had developed various various designs and prototypes for powered exoskeletons and armor systems, including the Mark I exoskeleton, the Mark III exoskeleton, Orion armor, and Hrunting Mark I. In 2510, Halsey inspected much of this previous work while performing a program review of Project Hrunting on behalf of Oni. She judged Hrunting to be an interesting failure for its lack of innovation and inability to exploit recent technological breakthroughs. Later, during the early stages of planning for Project Mjolnir, Halsey would ultimately choose to start from scratch, due to both the limitations inherent in the previous antiquated designs and an unwillingness to shoulder the administrative burden of taking over and reforming an existing project such as Hrunting. Instead, Halsey preferred to start fresh with an entirely new team who were unbound by pre-existing dogma and assumptions about powered exoskeleton designs. The initial genesis of what would become Project Mjolnir can be traced back to as early as 2511. By that year, Halsey was in communication with Vice Admiral Hieronymus Stanforth regarding the production of an armor system to complement the Spartan II program, and had begun to brainstorm names for the project. In July, she penned an entry in her personal journal speculating that the reverse piezoelectric effect could be used to produce a bodysuit that enhanced the wearer's strength by causing the suit to intelligently deform in response to the wearer's nerve impulses, adding extra force to their movements. This would become one of the defining features of Mjolnir armor. Work on Project Mjolnir would not begin in earnest for a further 4 years, however, with development beginning in 2515. In that year, the project opened with an experimental phase, with a development platform that would be retroactively termed Mark I, being used as a testbed for numerous trials and experiments over the following years. The armor underwent significant iteration in the decade following, with at least 2 further distinct prototype platforms emerging, and 40 prototype suits being produced across these 3 platforms, before the first production model, what would come to be known as Mark IV, was finalized. Mark IV was put into production in mid-2525 and issued to the surviving Spartan II candidates in November of that year. Initially, Mjolnir was envisaged as an evolving platform, constantly and continuously updated with the latest technology as it became available. After a full decade, however, the Office of Naval Intelligence decided that it was no longer possible to facilitate this approach, much to Halsey's chagrin. In 2535, they mandated that Mjolnir adopt a generational categorization system for the purposes of serialization, prioritization, and progress tracking, and as a means of fiscal oversight. Despite her reservations, Halsey agreed to the introduction of such a system, and produced a roadmap for future generations of the armor, in the hopes that it would, quote-unquote, keep the accountants out of her hair and her work. The systems dubbed Marks 1, 2, and 3. The system devoted Marks 1, 2, and 3 to prototype platforms produced between 2515 and 2525, while categorizing all production models of Mjolnir up until that point as Mark IV. Three further planned iterations, Marks 5, 6, and 7, were included included in the roadmap, complete with rough technical specifications. Nevertheless, Halsey rarely used the Mark verbiage to describe the suits, due to her objections with its imposition by Oni. After the end of the Human Covenant War, the Materials Group developed the second system-wide generation of Mjolnir, simply designated Gen 2, as a response to the Spartan 4 project. Gen 2 is lighter than Marks 4 through 6, and is far more modular than previous systems. The previous iterations of Mjolnir were retroactively designated Gen 1 to distinguish them from the Gen 2. Pre-production prototypes. Before any generation of Mjolnir made it into formal production, a full decade was spent in the research and development phase of the program. 3 major distinct development platforms emerged over this period, which would be retroactively designated Mark 1, 2, and 3, with each successfully refining and building upon the last. Across these 3 platforms, at least 40 different physical suits were assembled, each to a varying stage of completeness with regards to systems integration and functionality. Suits from this prototypical generation of Mjolnir were never intended to be put into service, instead serving merely as development platforms for Halsey and her team to iterate on. Ultimately, the key failing of all 3 of these prototype platforms was the reliance on a local, external power source, requiring either a physical tether or for the user to remain within the range of broadcast power. This made the designs impractical on the battlefield, as their range was severely limited by the lack of a mobile power source. Mark 1. First developed in 2515, the Mark 1 was a development platform which served as a testbed for Halsey and her team to experiment with during the early stages of Mjolnir development. Though bulky, unwieldy, and difficult to control, the Mark 1 nevertheless pioneered the artificial muscles, embedded computer systems, and control software that would become core to the Mjolnir armor in later generations. The suit also contained a cutting-edge onboard computer that could assist the wearer by transmitting tactical and communications information to the standard neural implant issued to a soldier, though the suit did not possess the ability to carry an AI. Despite these successes, the Mark 1 had one fatal flaw which would have to be overcome before Mjolnir could ever be truly practical in the field. Due to the tremendous amount of energy needed to power it, it had to remain physically tethered to a power source while in use. Research and development for the Mark 1 was carried out at Section 3's headquarters inside Castle Base on Reach, though the final assembly of components occurred at the Damascus Materials Testing Facility on Kai Seti 4. The Mark 1 remained in development for a considerable amount of time before being succeeded by Mark 2 and later generations. Mark 2. A successor to Mark 1. Excuse me. The Mark II platform was a refinement on the same basic system as the Mark I, which increased the suit's mobility and range. This greatly improved mobility was enabled by the suit's slimmer profile. The Mark II also included a refractive coating to help disperse heat from explosions or directed energy weapons, and improved self-sealing systems in the event of damage while the suit was in a vacuum or an inhospitable atmosphere. However, the suit still needed to be physically tethered to a fusion generator, so despite being the most powerful piece of military hardware of its time, it was still impractical for battlefield deployment. Mark III. Similar to the Mark II, the Mark III system was a further refinement on the same systems pioneered with the Mark I, and also featured increased mobility and range versus its predecessors. Its major innovation, though, was that it was the first iteration to incorporate a wireless power receiver, so that power could be transmitted directly to it via broadcast power. This eliminated the need for a physical connection to the power source. Though an improvement, this design was still quickly rejected for two main reasons. First, the armor still had a limited operational range, as it had to remain within range of a bulky, immobile generator. Second, if said generator was disabled or destroyed, the suit would become inoperable, leaving its users locked inside the now inoperable shell, helpless against enemy attacks. Mark IV. Despite the failure of the three earlier iterations of Mjolnir, the Mjolnir Mark IV armor would become the first Mjolnir suit to see mass production and deployment onto the battlefield. Spearheaded by Dr. Catherine Halsey, the Mark IV was a radical redesign of the previous iterations. Most notably, it used an embedded miniature fusion reactor within the armor to power the suit, eliminating the cumbersome external generators that had plagued previous iterations. The Mjolnir Mark IV armor was first fielded in November 27th, 2525, and remained in service until November 24th, 2551, though it received innumerable iterative designs in the interim. Mark V. The Mjolnir Mark V is the first major upgrade of the system, and introduced two revolutionary technologies for battlefield purposes. Energy shielding, reverse engineered from Covenant technology, providing the user added protection against plasma weapons, and the ability to link a soldier and an artificial intelligence together to provide the soldier instant intel in the field, along with other functions. In addition to major changes from the Mark IV, hundreds of other technical improvements are incorporated into the Mark V. For example, the fusion packs used to power the suits are half the size of their predecessor. The Mark V was fielded from November 24, 2551 to October 20th, 2552. Black. Created by a top-secret parallel development lab in Seongnam, Korea, Mjolnir Black was a standalone Skunkworks prototype of the Mark VI issued exclusively for Team Black. It features a number of advances over contemporary Mjolnir exoskeletons. It was used on Verge during the Covenant invasion of the Epsilon Ariadne system and during Operation Blowback sometime after. Mark VI. The Mjolnir Mark VI is the third primary version of the system. It introduces several technical improvements while refining advanced technologies introduced in the previous system. The first improvement made to the system is a faster recharge time on the suit's energy shield system, so that the Spartan II super soldier does not have to remain in cover for an extended period of time. The second is improved synchronization between the suit and user. This allows the Spartan to jump higher, run faster, and hit harder than a Spartan could previously. Mark 7. The Mark 7 is the fourth major iteration of the Mjolnir armor, introduced in January 2553. It is lighter than previous first-generation suits, with new features including limited energy shielding shaping and a nanotechnology repair suite. Ultimately, the Mark 7 was never widely issued as it was deemed too complex and expensive for mass production, particularly in light of the development of the more versatile Gen 2 platform, which enabled more economical optimization for the different Spartan generations in service, while the first generation was mainly optimized for the Spartan 2s. Generation 2 Mjolnir is a program-wide overhaul of the system primarily developed for the Spartan 4s. Its most notable feature is the radical streamlining of the exoskeleton architecture, with the number of complex components reduced by an order of magnitude in comparison to Gen 1 suits. The Gen 2's design philosophy is geared towards integrating the vast majority of the armor's vital hardware into the bodysuit, known as a tech suit, enabling more streamlined production and easier implementation of specialized components. However, this sacrifices some of the suit's efficiency, and the performance improvements over Gen 1 Mjolnir are minimal. The second generation uses a spiral development model of production, enabling the UNSC and its corporate partners to iterate on the armor system much faster and more efficiently than with the first generation. Gen 2 is produced by a half a dozen manufacturers, both within the military and among private contractors. It is equipped with the new ad hoc modification systems, which gives the armor the ability to use tactical packages, support upgrades, and armor abilities. The Warrior variant serves as Gen 2's mainline armor kit, as well as the most widely utilized, though the Recruit variant is issued to all newly inducted Spartan personnel. Mjolnir Gen 3 is the third generation of Mjolnir armor, incorporating lessons learned from Gen 2 line of Mjolnir, while also seeking to restore some of the favorable design characteristics and materials of the Gen 1 line. Gen 1 Mark 7 was used as the testbed for Gen 3 improvements, and when Gen 3 Mjolnir began to be produced in February 2559, Mark 7 would for the first time receive a full production run. Gen 3 introduced numerous upgrades when compared to the Gen 2 platform, including enhanced energy shielding capabilities, a more compact and efficient fusion reactor, and variable density hydrostatic gel dispersal membranes. While Gen 3 did increase the overall use of exotic composites, several innovations in the manufacturing process and a refinement of the platform's modularity have resulted in a suit of armor that is more cost-effective and versatile than both previous generations. By October 2559, Gen 3 Mjolnir armor would become the standard armor generation fielded by Spartans, though other armor systems, such as the Gen 1 Mark 5B platform and its variants, have been upgraded to be roughly equivalent to Gen 3 Mjolnir, offering Spartans greater choice in the Mjolnir they field. This was an interesting look at the armor development for the Spartans. I have to say, it feels like the development of Spartans themselves and the development of the armor sort of crossed each other at Spartan 2s. That was because we had Spartan 1s, which were just guys. Then we had Spartan 2s, who were like the platonic ideal of a super soldier without their armor. And then, because creating them was brutal and inhuman, they moved to Spartan 3s, and then to Spartan 4s. Which were, I think it's fair to say, reductions in the quality of the personnel that they had in the Spartan program. Because they were being monsters. But the armor gets more expensive and harder to produce as time goes on, which is the opposite of what I would imagine you would want when your Spartan core is expanding and you're neither putting as much time nor as much actual hardware into the people that you're training. Yeah. Anyways, it seems like the UNSC are maybe chasing a wonder weapon. Although, any society that would develop the Spartan is definitely chasing a wonder weapon. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel. Look forward to more Halo, Star Wars, Warhammer, all kinds of stuff coming up.